Hey everybody, it is 510, week number 3. So this week we are looking at something that actually fits the discussion board theme really well and then kind of broadens out to the whole theme of this week. So let's start with just what's due this week and then talk about kind of the theme. So there's no big assignment, so this is an opportunity to look ahead a little bit, get caught up a little bit, just take a breather if you need to. The only thing that is due is discussion board this week, and so it's gonna be a quicker video. We'll knock this out in 5 minutes flat. So the discussion board theme has you listen to a podcast posted to SoundCloud. Can you lead and serve at the same time? And so this question really is the theme of the week. So like you might want to even start with a discussion board poster and listen to that. Talk about the strategies highlighted, talks about servant leadership. You're going to talk about an example where you've seen this being used effectively. And I want to talk about the first one, an example from kind of how I internalize these and use these in my leadership position at Hillbrook. So the first one is don't control people, and the way I see this show up is actually in the supervisor role. And so looking at people that are on my tech team, granted, most of you are in the classroom, but at some point you might not be. And so just a way of thinking about this, and even like whatever your role is right now, you still show up in a leadership space. Mine's a very specific, like I am supervisor role. And in this case, the thing that really resonated with me is don't control people. And so I think that anyone at schools that does hiring, that is their most important job. If you hire well, you're gonna have amazing people. And if you have amazing people, hopefully, if you're a good leader, you can just trust them. Not completely hands off, but it's less of like a micromanagement. Like, why did you do this? Why aren't you doing that? Let me tell you what to do next. And it's just about trusting people. So the way the video refers to it is don't control people. And I think this is really what it gets at. I think that every educator, every administrator should have a bias towards trusting. And it's not until that trust is broken that you need to step in and like go into like the kind of the traditional like management to like really like controlling of teachers in particular. I think until that's the case, it's like the assumption is you're an awesome teacher, you're doing what you should be doing here. In my case, it's the tech teams who are tech support specialists. You're awesome at supporting people, you're awesome at troubleshooting, you're awesome at like managing your time. And it's not to say that I expect people to be like working every minute of every day. Like, no, like get things done, support people, show up to like what you need to show up to. And it's not until like, oh, I noticed you weren't at your desk today and you were hanging out at a coffee shop for 6 hours talking to a friend. Like, yes, let's talk about that. And then, yes, I will pay more attention in the next month or so to make sure that you're actually doing the job that you were hired to do, right? In a similar way, like, it's not my job, I believe, as a supervisor, as an educational leader, to say like how people need to spend their time and what like just it's trust people, don't control them, do trust them. I think this shows up a little bit less. Like I don't want to push this metaphor onto if you're in the classroom like you with students. This really is about like what servant leadership is. That's what that podcast episode and discussion board number 1, the only discussion board, really talks about. And it's more about empowering people. The thing that resonates the most with me, and I'll probably continue to say this, is so much less about servant leadership for me as like a rigid framework. And for me, it really is like a coaching stance, less of like, I need to make sure you do your job. And it's more of like, how can I show up in our meetings, in our interactions, so that I can coach you? And I love that stance as a leader. I think it like Venn diagrams so well with servant leadership. They're definitely distinct things, but for me, every time I see that, I'm like, oh, that reminds me of like a coaching stance. How do I support you? What do you need? Like it's asking questions. Almost like a similar way of like a leadership coach, a tech coach, a therapist. It's less about me telling you what to do and me asking questions, believing that you are capable, that you don't need to be controlled. So I think you're going to see some of those themes in the week 3 stuff. Big picture, we've been looking the last 2 weeks at leadership traits. We're going to be looking at leadership strategies, like what servant leaders actually do. It's going to look at how servant leadership shows up in real relationships, real decisions, actual schools, and not just kind of this vague, like, what are traits of a leader? Let's see, I have my notes here. I already talked about the podcast thing. It's really looking the other big theme that I want to make sure that is highlighted for you here. It's less about like the actual task in the short term, and it's really about long-term growth, long-term support, less about metrics. Those can be important, but it's really important like looking at the big picture and how you're supporting and growing and empowering the people that you're like a leader to. You have a TED Talk to watch, and it's really looking at kind of challenging traditional models. Again, it's like the same theme, like looking ahead. It's less about short term, it's more about long term. Also talks about like broadening your networks and really just looking inside and seeing like what no longer serves you, and then letting go of those as you go into the leader that you want to be. And so that's really where I'm going to leave you here, is reflecting on what you've seen in other leadership that's empowered you, but also like the non-example where you've seen the opposite of that and what you can learn from that, because the non-example is sometimes more important. The last thing that I'm going to share, not related to this class, but great opportunity. I'm going to be moderating a panel on a webinar on the 21st at 1 p.m. Pacific time, hosted by namely the National Association of Media Literacy Education. You should be a member, it's free. The webinar is the AI shift, moving from reaction to readiness in your classroom. I just got off a prep call, and like the people are legit. So it's like the founder of AI for Education, VP at AI EDU. There's like an AI literacy specialist. Student Ishan, that's part of the Namely Youth Council. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited about it. Like, I would for sure be attending. I get to host the panel and actually talk with them. It's going to be great. I think you will love it. If you can't make it at that time, it'll be recorded, so register anyway, and you can watch the recording later, separate from the class. So like, you don't need to come, but if you do, it'll be good. And that is all for week 3, everybody.